Welcome back to The One Behind the Lens. I'm your host, Kate DeCoste, photographer, educator, podcaster, and your biggest cheerleader when it comes to building a business that actually works for you. And friends, season 3 is officially here. I am so excited to kick off this season with a conversation that I think every photographer, creative, and small business owner needs to hear. Let's be honest, content creation can feel exhausting. Between social media, blogs, emails, reels, SEO, and trying to keep up with whatever platform is changing this week, it can start to feel like you're spending more time marketing your business than actually running it. So, what if there was a better way? Today's guest is a content strategist and the creator of high leverage content. She teaches business owners how to create what she calls a capsule blog library, a collection of intentional content that keeps working for your business long after you hit publish. In this episode, we're talking about blogging that actually gets clients, why blogging is far from dead, how to repurpose content without sounding repetitive, using AI without losing your voice, and why content burnout might have less to do with how much you're creating and more to do with the results you're getting from it. I was taking mental notes the entire conversation, and I have a feeling you will be doing that same thing. So grab your coffee, your notebook, or maybe just your camera bag on the way to your next session, and let's get into it. So, Jana, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. This is so exciting.
Oh, thank you. It's exciting to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, yes. I think this is going to be a great conversation for photographers and any creatives that might be tuning in. And I would love first, Jana, for the listeners that might be meeting you for the first time, tell us a little bit about yourself and the Jana O Media.
Yeah. Jana O Media is my brand and my website, so janaomedia.com. And I have been in business and online business for probably close to like 9 years now. I think it's been a while that I've been saying eight. And I run a program called High Leverage Content, and I teach a blog. It's actually a program where we write a capsule blog library. So instead of writing a blog where you like literally like blog every week or every month for the rest of your darn life or business, we write a capsule blog library of 12 to 20 key blog posts that cover the key things that your audience needs to feel ready to buy your paid offer. And then we use and leverage that blog in all different ways in your marketing. And I've been, like I said, I've been in online business about 9 years. I started as a virtual assistant originally, and then as a done for you service provider for many years. And one of the things that really was rough when I was originally figuring all this stuff out as a done for you service provider was figuring out how to find that balance between all the done for you work, right? When we work with clients, like our time is blocked off for client work, but also keeping the marketing going so that you always like have a pipeline and you know where your next clients are coming from. Um, I had an offer originally when I was doing done for you work for most of the time, which was a project type of based offer. Probably similar to like some of the photographers that listen, because photography, you're not typically on like a retainer, right? You're usually doing like a project for someone. So it was really important to me to always like keep a pipeline of new clients. But also I was like, when am I going to do this? Because like, am I going to be like a full-time marketer in addition to like being a full-time service provider? So I developed my capsule blog and repurposing system back then for my own business, did it for clients for years, and then a few years ago turned it into a course and program where I now teach students how to do the same in their business. So it's really all about a blog that brings you clients. So
I love it. I love it
yeah,
because I feel like for a while, or even still, for photographers, and I say this, and I know other photographers that are do the education or anything like that, that they're like the blogging is still should be a thing for you. Like you
yeah,
shouldn't
yeah,
um it's not dead. Like I don't know if
yeah,
people think,
yeah,
where they are like, oh,
yeah.
and do you have a certain, because I try to at least blog once a month, like, I'm, like, at
Mhm,
least have something up. Do you
mhm.
kind of have a timeline of what you would say would be better or
Yeah. So it's interesting because I have all kinds of people in my high leverage content program. I have had photographers, lots of creatives, lots of like website designers, social media managers, Pinterest managers. I have coaches as well in B2C and B2B space. And generally speaking, my advice is that you, as a business owner who are using your blog to get clients, as opposed to someone who is a blogger, I always say you're not a blogger, you're a business owner with a blog, and those are different things.
Mm, mhm,
And
mhm.
when we are a business owner with a blog, I always say you actually don't need to blog consistently. What I believe is that we build a capsule blog library and then we use that on repeat to get clients. So we're identifying what the key messages are that our blog needs to cover in order to give people everything that they need to hear and learn and understand more deeply and better from us to feel ready to buy our paid offer. And then we use those blogs. So instead of like always writing something new, you use what you've already written. That being said, there are certain niches of people in my program who are using my strategy, but also layering it in with other strategies. And with photographers, it's a little bit of a special circumstance because I know most photographers are very location specific.
Mm, mhm.
Also, for example, I had a woman who runs a med spa who's in the program. Same thing. She's very location specific. She's not working with people in all different states in the country and people overseas. I mean, obviously she could, but like they have to come to her if they're going to get their facials, right? So if you're very location driven, which I know not all, but some photographers are, there are some photographers that don't consider themselves very location driven. They you know, have camera will travel. Um, but if you are location specific, then I would layer this in with a strategy that is, optimizing the rest of your business, or excuse me, the rest of your website for like a local SEO, and probably writing some posts that are also intentionally targeting keywords, which is very different than the advice that I give most students who are not location based. But in this case, I would say as a photographer, if you are location specific, you want to have a capsule blog library that is not even, don't worry about keywords, that's written specifically, again, to show people the things that they really need from your content to feel ready to buy, structured in a very high converting way. And that's what we do in my program. But then you also probably will have some blog posts that literally are targeting keywords like, best engagement photo shoot locations in Santa Fe, New Mexico type of thing, right? I
Mhm.
think that for photographers, that's a very, very legitimate strategy. And I would not want anyone to say, like, okay, I'm not doing that. I'm only going to do it your way. If you are a blog person and you're very location specific, I think you need both. You need some that are targeting keywords and then other blog posts that are written specifically just to help people get the things that they need from you to feel ready to buy your offer, to answer your frequently asked questions, to show them what problems you solve, to bust myths that people have sometimes that are keeping them from making their bookings, like, I need to look a certain way before I, do my photos or whatever. So yeah, that's my take on it. Does that make sense? Like it's kind of a balance.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you touch on so if people oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I didn't really answer your question. I kinda, like, went around about it to answer it. But so in that case, I would say write your capsule blog library. It doesn't matter how often you publish it, weekly, monthly, whatever. My students will usually write their capsule blog library anywhere between in a 90-day period or over the course of a year, what depending on how much time they have available. Because again, we work with clients. But then from an SEO perspective, my answer is going to be different. Then I'm saying you probably do want to publish something fresh at least like once a month if you are wanting to see SEO growth. That's a different strategy. So to answer the,
Mm.
the actual question you asked me.
Well,
Yeah.
and I feel like yeah, no, I get it. Like, I was like
Yeah.
I felt like you answered it, but then that's great though, just to
Yeah.
kinda know,
I didn't like
like
seal it up. Yeah.
and I feel like is it too like that I always hear like, too of like, say, looking at your website, and if someone looks at a blog and they're like, "Oh, this person hasn't blogged for, like, 8 months," or something like that, it could make you also maybe they don't know if you're in business still
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's nothing, like, new.
Yeah, I have some students who sometimes ask me that question, and there's kind of two ways you can go about it, or two things you can do to mitigate that. Number one, the most kind of just obvious, easy one is that you can remove the dates from your blog. um,
Oh, yeah,
or
yeah.
from some blog posts, right? Depending on your
Mhm.
website platform. But the more kind of strategic approach to that is I teach a concept inside of the program that's called improve as you share. And so we do have a kind of a certain standard for keeping the blog posts fresh and making sure that you're looking at them fairly regularly, like at least a couple of times a year to make sure that the content is fresh feeling. So you're not like leaving things like, oh, this year in 2023, so far I've, something like that. But also
Mm,
to make sure that your messaging and like if you've come up with new ways to say things or you have new examples that you now want to use that you didn't have back when you first published the blog, that type of thing that you add those in and keep the blog fresh. So we do actually do that. And typically, if you have things set up the right way on your blog, not the right way, but in this way, the blog will usually show not only the original publishing date, but also the date that you most recently updated it. So, for example, I have a capsule blog on my blog. Like if you go to my blog, janahomediacom/blog, you'll see that most of those blog posts have been there quite some time because I wrote a capsule blog and then I reuse them and I recycle them and I reshare them and leverage them in my sales process. But you'll also notice that most of them have been updated or refreshed in the last 3 or 4 months because whenever I share them or do something with that blog, so if this is the week where I'm using that blog to repurpose and create some social media content, for example, or if someone asks me a question and I share the blog post with them as part of my answer, I'm in the habit of always looking at it and freshening it up a little bit, even if it's just tiny little things. And even if you just change one little, letter or whatever, your blog's going to say, oh, refreshed. And now it's,
mm.
May 20th, last date refreshed was May 20th. So there's that piece of it too. You can do it that way to mitigate things that way. Yep.
I love that. I feel like I just had, like it was just kind of like this, I was gonna ask you about, like, the term, like, the capsule blog,
Hmm.
and just thinking of repurposing, because I kinda do that. I've been starting to do that more on my social media because people are, they're like, someone might have not seen that post, or if they did, it's okay, like, they can see it again type thing,
Right.
and thinking of that with your blog, where if you wanna talk about, say, as a photographer, I might have a blog about, like, my senior wardrobe or something like that, where you don't have to rewrite it, but there might be some new things because, say, in 2022 there might be more the clothing might be a little bit different or whatever you
Right.
wanna, like,
Right.
add, or like you said, maybe
Or the
I have
hairstyles.
photos. Yeah, hairstyles, yeah, and I might have
Yeah.
photos that I wanna, update it. So, yeah, I love
Hmm.
that.
With
Yeah.
the capsule blog library concept, we are really thinking, so there's 3 parts of my program, and in the first part, we're really getting clear, taking the time to really get clear on what exactly our audience will need from our blog to feel ready to buy our offer, and choosing our blog topics between 12 and 20 of them for the capsule blog based on that. And so if you think about it, those things are typically things that are pretty evergreen that don't change a lot. And so once you've put the work into identifying what those things are and then writing them in a high converting way, and there's different strategies that I teach when it comes to the actual writing of the blogs, which is the second part of the program. But you're writing them in a way that like gives a lot of value, but also is naturally showing people the gap and the and like the value of taking the next step with you, which could either be to like, book a sales call with you or just book your services or whatever that next step in your sales process is, or even get on your email list, grab a lead magnet, something like that.
Mhm,
Um, but if you think about it, like if you're really focused on, it's kind of like, measuring twice and cutting once. If you're really focused on making sure that you have the right messages in your blog, then it makes sense to keep sharing them over and over and repurposing them over and over because these are really high converting messages.
mhm,
So rather than just writing them once, sharing them once, and then moving on and writing something else, it makes sense to create that repetition, right? And you said something a second ago that reminded me of a kind of a funny conversation I have a lot. Like my students will often say to me, or even just people in my community, or even on podcast episodes, maybe someone will say, if we're just sort of cycling through these 12 to 20 blog posts and like we're sharing them and repurposing them all the time, are people going to notice? And I'll say, yes. Like, are they going to notice that I'm repeating myself over and over? And I say, yes. And that's a good thing,
yes.
right? It's not a bad
Yes,
thing, it's
yes.
good. We actually I think we tend to think we always have to, like, stay relevant with new content all the time, but actually, It's really the repetition in our main messages, especially when you're writing blog posts like this that are about the reasons people like, the problems you solve in your offer, the goals you have, busting up myths and, mistakes people might be making and helping them get on the right track for the right thing in your area of expertise. Um, when you repeat these things, that's actually how you become known for the thing that you want to be known for. And that's how you help your main messages really land with people because they typically do need to hear them multiple times in different places for them to like really click and land, right? So we actually lean way, way, way into repetition when we have a capsule blog, and that's a good thing. We want to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like what you're saying, like, if you wanna be known for something,
Yeah,
you want it like you said, you want yes, you do want people to notice that you're talking about 10 to 20 like, that same blog or that same
exactly.
topic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you
exactly.
touch on really quick if someone is not sure, what a keyword is or, like, how to implement that into a blog?
Yeah, yeah. So in the capsule blog library concept, the way that I teach it, I believe that you don't even really want to worry about keywords until you have at least 10 blog posts on your blog that cover those key things that your audience needs to feel ready to buy your offer. Because what I find a lot of times is that when people try to, they want to have a blog because they know they should. For they know they should for SEO purposes. They know they should so that when people land on their website, there's more there for someone than just a sales page, right? Things like that. And maybe they just actually want to blog because they have a lot of like things they want to like impart, right? And they want to be able to send someone who asks a question about their services to a really comprehensive, helpful, valuable blog post. So they feel like they should have a blog but they can't get it off the ground because they feel like they have to research a keyword, find the keyword. For some people SEO is like clear and some people it's confusing, but and then they have to write that blog post around a keyword. And a lot of times what happens is that feels very forced and we're thinking to
Mhm,
ourselves, is anyone even going to find me for this anyway? How am I going to compete with like, the bigger, websites for this? Um, do I really want to write about this or do I want to kind of dance around this keyword and write about something else and pretend it's about this keyword? And so it
mhm,
doesn't, a lot of times people end up, when they start that way, start a blog that way, they usually don't end up staying consistent with it. And when I say consistent, I mean they don't actually grow a blog or all of their drafts just stay in Google Drive and they never end up like actually on their website because it's just kind of like awkward. So I say write 10 at least blog posts, and I'm saying 10 instead of 12 because 10 is where I think about it with SEO, but it could be 12 as well. But for me, that's the tipping point. Once you have that amount of blog posts that are based on the things that your audience needs to feel ready to buy your paid offer, you're growing domain authority while you're doing that. But then you're also like getting in the what is it, the habit of publishing and whatnot. And then you could layer in an SEO strategy. This is the way I originally did it with my website when I was a done for you service provider. I wrote the things that my audience needed to feel ready to buy my offer. And then I noticed that things were starting to rank on Google. And that's when I layered in, an SEO strategy. And that's how almost everybody that I know who now ranks on Google actually started. Because again, if you start with the keywords, most people don't have the wherewithal. They don't like their keywords. They feel it's awkward and they don't end up following through with that strategy and they don't grow a blog. Um,
mm,
so your question was about keywords. Basically, I know enough about it to be dangerous and for my own business, but it's not what I teach, just to be clear.
mm,
But what happens is there are people who are searching on search engines, right? And one of them's Google. It tends to be the biggest one, although that's changing. And you ideally would like Google to show your results when people Google that thing. And so the idea is to try to write blog posts that help you get your website and your blog posts on, ideally what we hope is page one of Google because most people don't go beyond page one when they search for something anyway.
right, right.
Um, and so we try to optimize our blogs for that if SEO is a strategy. And like I said, for people who have very local businesses, I think they should have a local SEO strategy for their whole website, not just their blog. But I also think that they should be writing blog posts that are not just for keywords and like kind of pandering to the Google algorithm, but they should also be writing blog posts that are for their humans and answering the main things that they need to feel ready and comfortable to hire them. Um,
Mhm.
so that's like what a keyword is and where it fits into like the way I did it in my own business and the way I teach it to my students and clients.
I love that. I love that. I just know that sometimes, you might talk about something or say something, and someone listening may know exactly what you're
Yeah.
talking about, and someone's like, "What's a keyword?"
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah, and I assume people do, but you're right, not everyone is knows what we're talking about when we say that, so I'm glad you asked.
well, and I know that sometimes people, if I talk about keywords or tags, I feel like people might get those two things confused a little bit of like what's a keyword versus what's a tag and how do I use
Mhm.
it and
And
all
when you
the
say tag in this context, do you mean a tag on a blog, or do you mean a hashtag, or, like, what do you mean by tag?
kinda yeah, see?
Yes, all of the above?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's funny, like, when you, like, look at, like, your tag for your blog, and then say then if you're on YouTube, and then you need, like,
Mhm,
a tag for your YouTube, so it's that thing of
mhm.
kinda going back and forth of, like,
Yeah.
time out, friends. Let's talk about what's in my cup every single morning. Coffee Roaster of Lincoln, Nebraska. Freshly roasted, full of flavor, and honestly, it's the real MVP of my morning routine. They ship anywhere in the US, no matter where you live. Nebraska's best can be in your mug too. Use code TOBTL for 5% off your online order. That's TOBTL. Or just hit that link in the show notes and thank me later. Support small, sip strong, stay caffeinated. I actually, for
Yeah.
my website, had like, where I was like, oh, I have a tag so that for me, if you interact with that blog, I know that you interacted with, say, this blog that was about headshots,
Mhm,
where I was, like, putting all these tags, like, the tags or, like, the keywords I was kind of
mhm,
doing prior, and then once I kind of learned more about my website and so
mhm.
maybe also learn about that too of how your website kind of
Is
works
structured,
as
right? Because there's also
yeah,
categories. There's categories and tags too on blogs sometimes, and, again, this is stuff that I don't really like get into too much in the program because I really want my students focusing on figuring out what they need to say in their content to get people buying because a lot of my students are in that place where they're trying to figure that out.
right,
And then
right.
writing those messages so that they can actually articulate them and flesh them out. And then having a blog that covers those key things. So I always like when people ask me like, "Oh, what about categories?" I say, "You don't need to worry about that yet. Come back to me when you have 20 blog posts and I'll tell you what we can do with categories and tags." But for
I
now,
love
I
that.
just want you to put stuff on your blog that's gonna help people wanna buy your
That.
stuff.
So talking about kind of well, writing, and you said something you way why it kind of like made me think of this is you said
Mhm.
human, and it kind of brought me. What
Ah,
are your
I know where you're going with this.
so do you recommend? And if you do, how do you recommend using AI for blog writing?
Yeah. Yeah, we do use AI in the program. It is optional. And I it's funny because most of what I teach, which is good, is a reflection of what I do as well, and this is the same for me. When I write something, sometimes I use AI and sometimes I don't. Um, but I do believe strongly that you need to use AI at a certain point in the process of writing a blog and not doing it in the beginning and not doing it, like, trying to get it to do it, like, like end to end for you. So let me explain better. I teach a four-step writing process, and the first step of that process is outlining. And when you're outlining, you're not just literally outlining. When we think of outlining, we think of like Roman numeral, you know, alpha letter, and then and it is that, right? But really, what it is going through. I have there are 9 types of content that I recommend that you write that help people feel ready to buy. And for each one, we have an outline. And so you use the outline, but you're also answering prompts in the outline, and what you're doing when you're answering those prompts is essentially deciding what insights you wanna share. Insights, examples, like what you wanna say. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm,
get
mhm.
into your brain and decide what you want to say to help people solve this problem that this blog is about, or to help people reach this goal that this blog is about, or to bust this myth that you're writing about, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And so that outlining phase, I say don't use AI for this. Like I want you to just use your brain. I want you to look at my outline and I want you to think about what you would tell someone if someone was standing there asking you these things, like a client or someone that you're helping, and fill out the outlining sheet with your brain.
Right,
um,
right.
and then, and I do think there's a place where you could use some AI prompts in this case to kind of like help you be a little more creative and think out of the box. But generally, we want to lean on our brain during step one. And then in my program, step two of the four-step writing process is using AI to generate your first draft. So we then take the outline and put it into a GPT tool that I have. And you could do this, on your own as well, have a GPT tool, or you can just put it into chat and tell it what you want, or Claude or whatever, and let it take your outline where you've already decided with your brain what you want to share and say, right? What your thought leadership is, and then just have it like lean on it to put it into sentences and paragraphs for you. And then you have a pretty good draft, and there's still two more steps in the writing process where we're going to go through and make sure that it's ready to publish for you and it's going to represent you well. But that's where I bring AI into it, and I definitely do not believe in the idea of, like, going into AI and saying, like, "Hey, can you write me a blog post about, like, the 10 best," um, like I said earlier, like, engagement, shoot spots in, Phoenix, Arizona, or about, um, you know, th 5 creative, ways to do a senior portrait, photo shoot that aren't what you think or whatever. Because if you
Mhm.
do that and you say, "Just write me a blog about that," you're gonna get a blog, but it's gonna be completely derivative. It's not gonna be anything that were your original ideas. And there's all sorts of reasons why that doesn't work. We can cover them if you want, but I think do you wanna talk about why that doesn't work? I don't know. I mean, maybe you can take it from here. This doesn't work for a lot of reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I get where, like, yeah, it doesn't work in the sense I feel like if you maybe did that, it would maybe when you were saying that, I was like, then would, like, another photographer have the exact same blog?
Yes.
You
Exactly.
know?
Yes, of
Like,
course.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
because what it's
do
doing is it's actually getting information that's already out there. I mean, chances are, yeah, it's
right,
literally I mean, it's like whether you wanna call it legal or not, I don't know, legal, ethical, whatever, I'm not a lawyer, but it's like kind of plagiarizing, like, what's already out there in the interwebs. So,
right, right,
yes, it's not gonna be unique to you, it's gonna be very generic. Nothing about it when someone reads it is gonna make me think like, "Oh, I want her to take my photos." They're just it's not gonna yeah.
right. I
Mhm.
love how you're using like, you're using it, but I love that you're like, that first step is your brain.
Gotta be your brain. Gotta be your brain.
Gotta
Yeah.
be your brain. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
AI is you hear people saying, like, "You can put so much content out there now with AI. You can put so much content," like but I don't want so much content. I just want a little bit of the right content to get to
Right.
the right people. I don't wanna just, like, put out, droves and droves of, like, generic soulless content. I want one tight library of content that I can repurpose from that is truly a reflection of how I'm unique,
Mhm.
and gives people value while showing them the value of my unique approach and offer and things like that.
If someone who's listening right now and they've been hearing all of, this information, if they're stuck right now in like their content burnout or like just random, like they're just like, I
Mm.
have to post something, where would you say that they would need or should or could start?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would really depend on, like, where that content burnout is coming from, if it's what platforms they feel like they've been on that aren't giving them results right now. There's so many factors, I guess, but I would probably say take it back to your topics. I think that most of the time if people are feeling okay, so all right. I think most of the time content burnout is not really about doing too much. It's more like about doing too much and not getting good ROI from it. That's what burns us
Mhm.
out. You know what I mean? I think that if someone puts out, you know, 10, meters or little like liters or whatever of content and they're getting great ROI from it and they're getting, people signing up for their email list and they're getting clients and it's working. People are repeating back their messages when they ask them why they decided to book them and things like that. It doesn't feel like burnout. Meanwhile, the person
Mm,
who's putting
mhm.
out half that amount of content, 5 liters, I know we don't measure content in liters, I'm just coming up with like, you know, um, that person who's putting out half the amount of content is not getting good results, right? People aren't booking with them. They're not hearing their messages repeated back to them because people aren't booking. Or when they do, like they're saying, oh, I just heard about you from, your sister's friend and from college instead of it being from their content. Then they start to feel, like, burnt out because they're like, "It's not getting me anywhere. It's not doing what I want it to
Mm.
do." So if that were the case, My recommendation would be to go back to like step 1 of what I consider like or phase 1 of a 3-phase process where you go back to your topics and say, what exactly are you putting content out about? And that could be blogs, it could be Instagram, it could be, emails, anything that you feel like you're burnt out on. What topics are you addressing? And let's make sure that those topics are relevant to your audience. They're not just things that you think are important, but that they're kind of like, about, like they need to really be positioned so that they feel very, very important to the people. Which
Mhm.
usually means you're showing them that there's some like that you have a solution for a problem that they're thinking about almost every day.
Mhm.
And making sure that it's also like your content's also aligned with your paid offer, that it's not random, that you're choosing topics not just based on what you think is cool or we want to talk about that day, but on topics that are, again, based on the things people need from you to feel ready to buy your offer. Usually, when people are burning out because they're not seeing the results that they think would be commensurate from all the effort that they're putting in, it's usually, to me, I think it goes back to topics and they're not creating the content about the right things.
Mm.
They're creating content about things that they think are important, more like their diagnosis of the problem instead of what people think is their problem, and
Right.
things like that. So
Right.
I would say that's where I would go if someone were to come to me and be like, "I am so burnt out." I have students join all the time that are like, "I have been on the content treadmill and what I'm doing isn't working." And it almost always comes back to your topics are not like they're just not the right topics. So that's where I would
Mm.
start. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. When you were kinda saying you're like, if it's blogs or Instagram or
Mhm.
email and all of that, do you and then I was thinking of your repurposing. Do you
Mhm.
suggest that, say, what your blog is that month or that week, should that kind of coincide with what you're putting out, say, in your email blast or on your social media?
It can. Sometimes that's a good strategy, but I think the reason it's a good strategy is really more to keep your brain on board with the process so you're not feeling like you're
Mm.
running a three-ring circus.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't think it's necessary to do it that way. I think some people fall into this trap where they think it's supposed to be that way, so they're like feeling like they didn't do it perfectly and now it's all messed up. like don't
Right.
do it for them, do it for your brain, right? Back to your brain.
Mhm.
Um And because with my method, because you write a capsule blog, you're not just sharing the blog that you wrote this week, you're also sharing, you are sharing a blog that you wrote a while ago as well.
Mhm.
So, like in my free blog strategy masterclass, I actually pull up like it's just the pre-blog training that's on my website, so anybody can watch it. But it's like I pull up a spreadsheet that's literally a Google sheet that shows you. I'm going to try to like help you visualize it. Along one, like the first column is like a calendar. Essentially, it's all these columns with the dates for the calendars. Each row represents a week, and we're repurposing each of your capsule blog posts for 2 weeks in a row. So you're
Mm.
like using that to generate all your other content, the emails you need to send out using what I call a gem pull and a straight teaser method, any social posts that you want for your platforms. I encourage people to have 2 growth platforms and that's it, not to try to be everywhere, but um, so you can do it that way, but I've also had students who are like, "Actually, I'd rather do it this way," and that's okay too. You don't have to do it that way, but I think that can be a good strategy, but it's mostly just to keep things orderly.
Right, right. I guess
Yeah.
maybe if that's, like, your brain is that where it
Mhm.
has to, like, it needs that order or something, and
Yeah.
then or
Yeah.
if you're somebody that's doesn't need that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Then you can jump around a little bit. One way I like doing that, one reason I like that method too, is because it ensures that you're sharing all your back blog posts regularly,
Mm.
right? Because
Mhm.
you're going through a cycle where you share one for 2 weeks, another one for 2 weeks, and then at the end, if you have 12 posts, then 24 weeks later, you're starting again at the beginning.
Mm.
So it's like you're
Mhm.
going through
Mhm.
and you're resharing and repurposing from every blog post. And if you think about it, the reason that works with my method is because, again, you have your capsule library that covers all the things people need to feel ready to buy. So you want to cycle through those and share and reshare all the things people need from you to feel ready to buy because then they'll feel ready to buy. So,
Right, right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that, I love that. So you were kinda been talking about you talked a little bit about or you hinted that you have a free training. I'd love
Mhm.
for you just to kind of give the listeners a little bit more on that, where they can find that and where they can find you. connect
Yeah.
with you?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, my website is janaomedia.com, and you can go to my blog and see all of my blog posts if you want, which gives you, it's kind of a, meta thing because you get to see how I write blogs. You can kind of try to,
Mm.
reverse engineer my structure if you want to,
Right, right.
all those things. But also you'll find there very prominently on my website in all places, or you can go to janaomedia.com/free dash blog dash training. And it's a training where I take you behind the scenes and show you like all the kind of the inner workings of how the capsule library and repurposing strategy works, and then talk about some frequently asked questions, some of which we started to cover today but didn't get deep on. Yeah, and it gives you like a look at the method so you can kind of like learn it and also decide if it's something you want to, that you feel like is going to work for your business that you'd want to incorporate for your business. So I would say that would be a really good place for people who are like kind of listening and thinking, would this work for me? To go and learn more and make that decision.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you can kinda, like, yeah, get, like, dip your toes in it a little bit and just see if this is something, and
Yeah.
then on your website, then if they would like to keep going and they're like, "Yes, I love this,"
hmm
um, they
Yeah. So it,
sign up for your program?
yeah, yes, for sure. The program is called High Leverage Content, and that is also prominently displayed on my website. And if you watch the free training, although I get lots and lots of feedback from people saying, even if they didn't join, that they learned a lot. So it's not like one
Mm,
big sales pitch, I promise. I mean, there is a sales pitch at the end, but it's not one big sales pitch. But you will be offered at the end of that free training an opportunity to join the program. Oh, and there's a bonus if you decide to join through the actual blog
mm,
strategy training as opposed to just going to my website and joining from there. So, wink, wink, audience. If you know you want to
y
do this, definitely still do the free training because you'll get a really juicy bonus that comes along when you join if you decide to join. So,
So, Jenna,
uh,
I do a little like, at the end of my shows, I do kind of like a little rapid fire
oh, I love that.
questions.
Okay, I'm
Okay,
ready.
yay, yay. I always get, like, nervous when I ask people because I don't want them to be like, "No."
Yeah, no, I love
I
that.
haven't had anybody yet, but, okay. So, coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee, coffee, all day, every day, twice on Sundays.
Okay, so I probably kind of know this, but Instagram, blog, Pinterest, or email, pick your favorite child.
All of them except Instagram.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, blog 100%, emails non-negotiable for a sustainable business and a pipeline. And I teach that in my program too. It's just kind of hidden in there.
Mm,
And I used to be a Pinterest strategist, and I love it for getting traffic to your blog and to recirculate your blog posts over and over. That's exactly, sometimes I think my program was inspired by my love of Pinterest because Pinterest does that. It
mm.
recirculates your blogs. So I
Okay,
can't, I
okay.
can't, I can't
You
choose.
can't pick your favorite
No
child. They're all
Instagram.
yours.
I don't want
Say
Instagram.
you have that one. Instagram's cut off.
Yes. No, I have like a minimum viable strategy over there, and it is minimum viable. It's fine. I like it. But the other three are my babes. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So on a writing day, a writing day soundtrack, is it silence or is there music?
Silence.
Silence.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Can't have the music on. I can't do it.
can't. One business tool you can't live without.
Probably Asana.
Ooh, yeah,
Yeah.
I like
Although, I mean, Airtable has become very indispensable to me too, but I still, Asana is where I do my own like time blocking and planning. And to me, if you're running an online business, part of the reason to do that is for the time freedom. So I feel like because Asana gives me that structure for the time freedom, I couldn't live without it. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Sorry, I know this is to be rapid fire.
No, 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 it's okay. I'm like um, what would you say is the biggest content marketing myth?
Probably that you should just write what you know, and that it's kind of a combination of like just write what you know and like that content is supposed to be fun all the time.
Mm,
Um, I feel like I hear people saying like if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong, and I just don't agree because we're running a business here,
right.
and sometimes you have to write like the thing that is basic that feels boring to you because that's what your ideal audience needs from you right now because they're many steps behind you and don't know what you think is basic.
Mhm.
And sometimes we just, we need to write the things, but one of the reasons I like my system is because you just write it once and then you can reuse it
Yeah,
over and over
yeah.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, I
You just
love
have to be
that.
bored once.
Right.
No, I shouldn't say that. It's not like every blog where you write isn't fun, but yeah.
Right, right. So, finish this sentence. Content should feel blank.
First thought was easy, but I don't really think that's the right word. I think it should feel low lift
Mm,
or even high leverage, probably. That's why I named my
mm,
program that. I think it should feel like when you're writing it, you're going to get to use it a lot, not like it's disposable. And that's how I
mhm,
feel like it feels like sometimes on social media. So, yeah, I would say high leverage and it should not feel disposable.
mhm. Well, this was great. I am, like, so excited, and I
You're
love
like, that's deep.
I know.
Sorry.
We're getting, like, in
Having
the
too much
deep
fun.
weeds here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Like,
know. Yes. I have been, like, thinking as we've been talking, I'm, like, thinking about blogs that I have written in the
Mhm.
past and, like, I'm like, I'm gonna repurpose those. Like, I just
Good.
love the strategy behind that, and I don't know why I never had really you kinda just are like, "Well, I gotta think of something else to write," and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
You
I
don't.
love
You don't have
you
to think of
don't.
something else to
You
write.
don't.
You've written a lot already. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience that I didn't touch on today?
I can't think of anything. I feel like we did a really good comprehensive chat and yeah, no, I can't think of anything.
Well, this was amazing. This was I think hopefully people are gonna be like how I was where they were like I'm like, "Oh."
Good.
And
I'm so glad.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
You're gonna be the kickoff of season 3. So
Amazing.
the
Oh,
this
yay.
is
Season 3. Here we come. Team season
I
3.
know, I know, I know. So thank you again for being on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Well, Shutter Squad, if you're anything like me, you are probably already thinking about old blog posts you could dust off, update, and put back to work. A huge thank you to Jana for joining me today and sharing such practical, actionable advice for creating content that doesn't just take up space on the internet, but actually helps move your business forward. If you'd like to learn more about Jana's capsule blog strategy, be sure to check out the links in the show notes, including her free blog strategy training. And if this episode gave you an idea, helped you rethink your content strategy, or inspired you to finally hit publish on that blog post you've been sitting on, I would love it if you shared this episode with a fellow photographer, creative, or business owner. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode of season 3. And if you have a quick minute, leaving a review is one of the best ways to help more people discover the show. Until next time, keep creating, keep showing up, and remember, it's time to shutter up and shine. I'll see you on the next episode.